Right. When you talk about carrier types, depending on your meeting, you might have different leaders wearing different carrier types, or you might just hold them up depending on what works best at your meeting, how many leaders you have, etc. All right, so now we're going to talk about carrier types. We're going to talk about different genres of carriers, and then when you have questions about brand specific things, we can help you with that one-on-one or see really what is going to best meet your needs. The first type I'm going to talk about are buckle carriers, or SSC, soft structured carriers. A buckle carrier is called that because most of them have a waistband with a buckle. There are arm straps. Usually there is a chest clip or a clip that clips in the back, and sometimes there are clips on the sides depending on the carrier. Most buckle carriers can be used from newborns through toddlerhood. How you fit your newborn in this carrier is really going to be dependent on your specific carrier. Some have a way to cinch down like this one does, that there's snaps in here, and there's 3 different sizes. Some are sized carriers. You'll have an infant size, a standard size, a toddler size. Some require a separate insert that the infant has to use in order to sit with that knee-to-knee position until they get big enough to fit the width of the carrier. It's really going to be dependent on your carrier. We can answer those questions, and they'll also come with the instruction manual that came with your carrier. Like we mentioned before with the safety, we want to make sure a baby's supported in that knee-to-knee position in most carriers without overextending their legs. So that's why we're looking at the width of the carrier and the height of the carrier to make sure we're not overextending the legs and to make sure the infant's airway and face are clear from fabric. So we can answer any questions you have about that later. Most buckle carriers can be used on the front. Many can be used on the back once a neurologically typical child is able to. Most buckle carriers can be used on the front. Many of them can be used on the back once a typically developing child is able to sit unassisted, is usually the milestone we're looking at for back carrying. If you have a child with special needs, then we can help you in that one-on-one situation to make sure that your child is able to safely be back-worn. And some can be used on the hip. Again, that's totally going to depend on the model and brand of your specific carrier. Carriers come in a huge variety of brands. There is not one best carrier. We liken it to your favorite pair of jeans. What fits you best is not necessarily going to be what fits your best friend best, which is a great reason to come to meetings. You can try on different things and see what works best for you, your baby, your body type, etc. The next carrier I'm going to talk about is a May-dye. A May-dye is a panel of fabric. It has 4 straps, 2 shorter on the bottom, 2 longer on the top. A May-dye can come in a variety of patterns, colors, fabrics, etc. A May-dye is typically put on slightly different than a buckle carrier, and that you're going to tie it on what's considered apron style. So you're tying it on like an apron with the pretty part facing you, and then you're going to fold it up over the baby. A May-dye can typically be used from newborn through toddlerhood. Depending on the May-dye, you can scrunch in the fabric and tie it with a ribbon or a rubber band. And then some of them also have a built-in cinching mechanism. You can use a May-dye on your front, on your hip, not necessarily where they shine, but some people like that, and then also on your back, close to when a child who's developmentally or who's typically developing is able to sit unassisted. But again, that's going to depend on your certain situation because these do conform to you and the baby a little bit more than a buckle carrier would. There are several different brands of May-dyes, some that you can find in the big box stores and some that you can only order online. And again, it's really going to be what you're looking for in that carrier. Now I'm going to talk about 2 types of wraps. This first type is a stretchy wrap. A stretchy wrap are going to be your Moby, Boba, Sally that you've probably heard a lot about. Stretchy wraps are awesome for the newborn stage. They can be used for front carries. Most stretchy wraps need to have 3 passes over the child in order to be worn safely. Stretchy wraps are really nice for those newborns because you pre-tie it on and then you can pop the baby in afterwards. They're really nice. You can take baby in and out throughout the day. I used to wear mine with my oldest, and then I would take him out to feed him, I would take him out to change him, and I would just leave this on over my cami that I would wear for the day. If you're going to go out, you can tie it on at home and then pop baby in when you get to your destination, so you're not worrying about tying it where you are. They can be worn, like I said, on the front. You can kind of wear them on a side hip carry, but they're not to be used in back carries because of the stretch of the fabric. A baby actually could stretch out and pull themselves out in them, so that's why they are a front carry. Similar to a stretchy wrap is a woven wrap. They're similar in that they are a long piece of fabric. They come in different sizes, but what's different is they don't have that stretch. They're a lot more supportive. Woven wraps can also be used from birth through toddler, preschoolhood. You can wear an adult on your back with one if you want it. I've never done it, but I've seen other people do it. Woven wraps are probably the highest learning curve of the different carrier types, but also the most versatile. There is an unlimited number of carries that you can do with them. They can be used on the front, hip, and back. You actually could wrap a newborn with an experienced wrapper who knows what they're doing, because they are completely conformed to you and the baby. So you can wrap a newborn really high on your backs where you can monitor their airway. It's not something I ever did with my first, but I was able to do with my second because I was an experienced wrapper with my co-leaders here to spot. Their wraps come in a variety of sizes, and the size really is going to tell you what carry you can do with that size. So it's not like I always wear this size and she always wears that size. It's that if I want to do this carry and this is my body type, this is the type of wrap I want to use. So I could use wraps that are size 3 to size 8 depending on what I wanted to do with them. They come in a plethora of colors and fabrics, and some of it's going to be personal preference and some of it's really just going to depend on what you want to do with that carrier. This is a ring sling. A ring sling is a long piece of fabric that has 2 rings sewn in the end. A ring sling is personally my very favorite carrier for newborns, but again, everyone has their personal preferences. A ring sling has a bit of a learning curve, but once you get used to it, if it's a carrier that you like, they can be really fast to use. A ring sling can be used from birth, again through toddlerhood, depending on your ring sling and the size of the child that you're wearing. A newborn can be worn right in your front, with that legs in or legs out position. You can move them more to a hip carry as you're naturally carrying them on your hip. And they can be used as a back carry for an older child who wants to be worn, who with a caregiver who is experienced doing that. It's not necessarily the most comfortable for a long-term carry, but it can be used in an emergency situation. Ring slings, again, they come in a variety of colors, patterns, and price points. There are linen ring slings and there are woven wrap ring slings. A ring sling made out of a woven wrap is going to be a little bit more supportive in the long run because of that support of that material. But again, it's really going to depend what you're looking for. And the last carrier type I really like to talk about is an anbuhimo. These are becoming really popular lately. An anbuhimo is a panel of fabric that has 2 arm straps. It looks similar to your buckle carriers, but you'll notice there's no waistband. Anbuhimos are a high back carry. Really, the child is going to be looking over your head. Typically in an anbuhimo, you're looking for a child who can sit unassisted so they can hold themselves up. And as you see, there's not anything holding them in on the sides, so we want to make sure that they don't slump. Anbuhimos come in baby, standard, and toddler preschool sizes, depending on the anbuhimo you're looking for. Some have a buckle across the front, some have a ring closure, some have wrap straps. That's going to depend on the specific anbuhimo you have. Some actually can be worn on the front as well, again depending on your manufacturer and your brand, but they really were developed to be a high back carrier originally. And then we have a lot of different types of hybrid carriers. There are buckle carriers that have a ring waist. There are Maydays that have buckles. There are, we have the XOXO that has a buckle and then wrap straps. So we have a huge plethora of options out there. What we just talked about are the main carrier types that you're going to see. And if you have something else that's kind of a hybrid, we can definitely help you and talk to you about the different features of each of those. Now that we went through all of that, I know it was a lot of information, we're going to do a quick introduction. Each of the leaders will introduce ourselves, we'll tell you our name, what our role is in the organization. We have some educating leaders and we have some support leaders. Our educating leaders can do any of the hands-on help that you need. We can help you get in your carrier, try any of our carriers, and then our support leaders can answer questions that you have, get you signed up if you want to be a member, or answer any general questions about the group. If you have a support leader that you're asking about hands-on help, they might just tell you, oh, hang on, you can talk to Stephanie when she's done. And we also have some leaders that are in training. So you have leaders that are shadowing someone else, and so they might just be watching, they might be giving hands-on help, and depending on the situation, they might have someone watching them or they might be watching someone else, so as they get ready to become an educating leader. So I'm Stephanie. I am the secretary with Chicagoland Baby Wearing. I've been wearing since my son was a couple days old. He's going to be 5 in May. I also have a 2-year-old and then one on the way. So I've worn through all the stages of newborn through preschool. I really couldn't even tell you that I had a favorite carrier. Like I told you before, I love ring slings for newborns. When I'm pregnant, I like to wear an on Bohemo because then I don't have that waistband around my belly. And then depending on the situation, is it a hot day? Am I wanting more support? What pattern am I looking for? I could really make a case for all the different carrier types. So we'll go around, have everyone have an opportunity to introduce yourselves. And then for our attendees, we'd love to hear who are you wearing and is there a specific reason you came today, help with a certain carrier? And then when we're done with all of that, we'll break off into groups. You can come over and see a specific leader, or you can, I guess, side note, I'll do the Zach Morris. Depending on your meeting, if you have like 5 people and 5 leaders, just tell them to, grab someone. If you have 15 people and you have 3 leaders, you might assign like, okay, she's going to talk about ring slings, she's going to talk about wraps, and she's going to talk about buckles. So really, at that point, you can kind of read your meeting. Just make sure they know who are the educating leaders and who are the support leaders, and then you can kind of go from there with what works best for you. All right, you guys are ready to do your meetings.